Neko, welcome back. Kick off another pre-race podcast. You look like you've been riding your bike.
I have been.
Awesome. Hopefully you had fun. One thing that I will say I've noticed, maybe it's been like the past month, past like 2 months or something, but you've been having a really good time on the bike.
I definitely have. To start the year, I've had a lot of trips. I've been away a lot, but each one was such a fun time. I got to go to the coolest places, hang out with mainly my team, which I really like, and ride my bike a lot. So I did a week in California, a week in Portugal, a week in Australia, a week in Costa Rica, a week in Phoenix, and then was right back on Friday for the Downhill Southeast. So it's been an action-packed start to the year, and now I'm home for 2 months where we have a bunch of events locally. So I'm loving it.
Nice. Do you think that you stepping back from the World Cup racing has like made you look at riding a little differently now?
For sure. I don't feel like there's as much pressure on myself to get results. And I think that was more coming from me anyway.
Yeah.
Like when it was only me on my team and my program, from the outside, I'm sure it was just a cool project, and no matter how I did, it was cool. Like I can see that now. But at the time, I felt like I had to justify how good the bike was, or that I took this risk, and like my result in the race was gonna say whether or not it was successful or not. And ultimately, I don't think that was the case. I think just being there and being part of it was just fine. But it was I was putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I don't think I was even riding well when I was doing it. Like I already feel like I ride stiffer than I want to sometimes. I could loosen up on the bike and ride better. And with that pressure of trying to, prove that, I felt like I was riding even more stiff on the bike.
Yeah.
So, lately since I've kind of shifted to where it's like, my riding doesn't mean anything. Like all my riding is for my own pleasure or to test the bikes for helping out the guys on my team. It's kind of like only a bonus. And I feel like I've been riding pretty good because of that.
Yeah.
I've had a coach like every year for the past 16 years that I was a pro racer. And this year I'm not paying anyone to help me. I just looked up my old programs that I liked, and honestly, like I don't do the hard ones that I didn't like. I just do like these workouts I thought were good. Like doing these lifts in the gym made me strong, so I'll do those. Not doing any intervals on the road. Like I'll ride uphill fast as I can to the sick trail and then rip down it. But yeah, it's just been more for pleasure. And honestly, I feel like I'm similar fitness and riding probably better and more loose on the bike. So it's been a pleasure.
Well, if we look back at our previous Downhill Southeast results, you did win your category, but amongst the pro category, you placed pretty good amongst a lot of those racers.
Yeah, I took myself out of the race because I we had the plan that I was going to do the commentary for the Downhill Southeast video, for the replay video. So I thought it would be weird to comment on my own video. Like I wasn't really into that. So I still wanted to race, and I wanted to like go ride with all my buddies. And like at the final, it was me, Crispy, and Luca on the start gate, like getting ready to drop in for the run. And like that's such a cool experience, and I love doing that. So I didn't want to miss it, but I also like had other things going on. So I would have loved to like win the race and then pull my time out of the race. That would have been a real boss move, but it wasn't really on the cards with Luca and Crispy.
Those boys were firing good.
Yeah, they were riding great. Luca especially. I mean, what do you expect? Like that's what he does, but he smashed everybody.
Yeah. And it was cool to see Kai come out and throw his name into the pro hat for the first time. And then the day before, he was like, Mangler, how do I get on the race show? And I was like, well, you didn't qualify in like the top 8, but if you get the hot seat coming into the top 8, then yeah, you'll be on the show. And he's like, cool, I'll do that. And I was like, all right. And sure enough, he did it.
Totally. I love that kid. He's like one of the funniest guys. He's good buddies with Asa, so he's always hanging out when they're riding together, and he's always hanging around our pits, and he just constantly makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I love
in like a
having him
fun
around.
way.
Yeah, totally. Like making fun of himself most of the time.
Yeah.
And he rips on the bike. Like,
Dude, yeah.
he goes for it. He's not afraid. He's like not worried about any dumb stuff, and he lets it rip. And yeah, it was so cool. I'm glad I beat him by a 100th of a second.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd be giving me some grief.
Yeah, that kid, he's pretty present at the Pro Downhill Series stuff because he's always helping out with the crew and everything. And last year at Mountain Creek, I forget the scenario leading up to it, but he was like, yeah, my leg hurts real bad, but I want to go ride. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's go do some laps. And so we take the lift up and we drop in on to do some Dominion party laps, and he pulls off like kind of at the halfway point. He's like, dude, my leg's hurting real bad. It's like, I'm just going to like chill down the mountain. I was like, okay, cool. And I continued on, and then like I got busy doing some filming stuff and saw him like later, and he's got like crutches and a cast, and like the dude's leg was broken and like was steezing through the top half of Dominion as it was.
I remember that weekend. He broke it doing setup, right? Like
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember how it happened, but I don't think he wrecked on his bike.
Yeah, he was helping the crew with setting up for the event, and somehow it broke his foot or his leg or something.
Yeah, something crazy. But then like came back later in the year to like put down some good runs.
Yeah. So I think he said he was going to talk to his parents about coming to the TTC. I hope he can make it.
That would be awesome. Let's pivot a little bit. Frameworks. Give us some updates on what all is going on with the program, the team, the bikes.
Yeah. So we got some downhill bikes being made right now. We're going to do a batch of downhill frames and sell them to the public. We're trying something different. In the past, we did this pre-orders. We knew exactly what the customers wanted and what sizes the breakdown was. They could order coil shocks with exactly their spring rate. And now we're trying to cut down that like time gap between when they buy the frame and when they get them. So we went ahead based on like the past two batches we made, guessed the split of mediums to larges. We only have mediums and larges right now.
Yeah.
And we're using the new 2026 Fox Float X2, which is a shock that the whole team's using this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the most sensitive air shock I've ever ridden. Super adjustable. It's just it has a lot of tools for tuning. If you're racing, you can change the PSI by just a couple PSI if you want. You can add volume spacers. You can do a lot to adjust the shock for the track.
And are you previously using air, or have you been on coils?
We've been on coils primarily. At the second half of last season, Angel and Asa started using the air shocks. For that reason, just adjustability, tunability for tracks. And the new shock that's coming out, I think I can't say much about that, but it's coming out very shortly. And it's what our team has been using all off season, is the shock we spec'd on our bike.
Okay.
So all the bikes will come with just that shock, which makes it a lot more simple. It's an air shock, so we don't have to get the spring rate for each individual customer.
Yeah.
And we went ahead and like just placed an order for a batch of frames. So when those come in mid-April, people will be able to buy them and get them in 4 days and be riding it that weekend if they can build it right up. So that'll be something for, I guess a lot of people listening to this are probably our customers, right? Like downhill racers in the Southeast is where we see most of our frames.
Yeah.
So that's coming. That's been exciting. It has a couple of minor changes from our bike. Super small stuff like the head tube. We used to use a 62 mil bottom cup so we could do reach adjust with no stack height change.
Okay.
So it wouldn't change the axle to crown if you ran a 10 mil offset. But that cup was really hard for us to get the tool to ream the head tube, because nobody uses that size that doesn't make a carbon bike. Like 62 is a stock size for a lot of e-bikes that are carbon. We couldn't find like a headset reaming tool, so we had to make one. It wasn't giving us like the best reams. Ooh. So we went to the standard 56-56, which is like what most downhill bikes use. And if you do run a 10 mil offset cup, then it adds some stack, which is I think a compromise that is giving us a better product. So minor changes like that, but the bike's pretty much what the team raced all last year and what we sold to the public. Like Asa's bike that he won Worlds and got second at Hardline on is like number 23 of 57. It's the middle of the batch, like same as everybody else has.
That's cool.
So I think that, yeah, it's cool that he's riding the same stuff that people buy, and pretty similar to what we're going to sell this year. So that's coming. Other than that, just getting ready for the team to ramp up for the season. We had a busy off season, as I just mentioned, with a bunch of training trips and going down to Australia for Hardline. The team will be coming out to do, Anna will be doing Tennessee National with me.
Nice.
So we'll both be doing that one. And then Anna and Asa will be doing the race at Rock Creek. Basically, I just told everybody on the team, like, preseason races are just to get you ready for the World Cups. So whatever you guys want to do, don't feel any pressure. The only races you have to do are the World Cups. So if you want to come, let's do it. It'll be fun. If you don't want to, if it's too much travel with everything else, don't come. And Anna wanted to do more races since she's on a new bike for this year.
Yeah, get comfy with it.
Yeah, get used to working with Josiah, her new mechanic. So she wanted to do both. Asa was just interested in doing Rock Creek.
Being
So
Asa.
I was like, yeah, dude, no worries. You tell me what you want to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, team will be coming out here in a couple weeks' time, and it'll be cool to have them local.
Angel's coming too?
Angel's not coming.
Okay.
Angel, he's headed to he's from Spain, but he lives in Andorra, and he still spends the winter where he's from in Spain because Andorra's a ski resort.
Yeah.
So he's headed back there. He said riding's getting good, so 2 weeks he's headed back there, and he's going to do all his preseason training over there. So
Is he doing any preseason races over there?
No, and he normally doesn't like to.
Okay.
He'd rather just do his training and show up at the first World Cup. So whatever works for each one of them.
Okay, cool.
I'm there to support it.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, you've mentioned how round one of Downhill Southeast is almost like a shakedown race to some degree. When someone like yourself or some of the pros do a shakedown race like that, and whatever your results are, how do you look at those and figure out what you need to do for your next race?
I think it depends on what your perspective is. If you're a top pro that's using these races as practice races, like say Luca or Crispy or some of the guys that are in the top 5, their season's not really focused on Downhill Southeast. Downhill Southeast is just a benchmark.
Yeah.
So they might be able to do more training. Like if they felt like they could have been stronger to the finish at that race, then maybe like physically they can make an improvement. Hard to say that's going to be like the next Downhill Southeast is 3 weeks away. You're not going to make a physiological change in that amount of time.
Totally. But like prepping for like Tennessee National, which is a month.
But they can train and they might dig themselves into a deeper hole by TTC, but then in a month later they'll be stronger from it. So they might look at something like that, like, man, Luca's stronger at the bottom, or I could gain more time there. I felt smoked, whatever. Whereas an amateur rider, somebody who's actually going for Downhill Southeast overall, they would look at it and they're not going to make like a training change that will implement in time to give them results at TTC. So for them, it's more like, what can I do with what I got, which is like a racecraft change, changing their approach to the run, looking at maybe a technique change, something on the track, some type of corner, some feature they weren't able to ride the way they wanted to, maybe breaking that down, watching videos. In a short amount of time between races, the biggest thing that you can do is like have your body and equipment running at 100%. So like getting good rest, just feeling good, like doing what you can to maintenance wise. That'll probably give you the best results with a race coming up that quickly. Getting time on your bike, like if you've got 2 off weekends in between, maybe getting out to a bike park, Windrock, Rock Creek, to ride and practice.
Yeah, just smash
whatever it
laps on a
was.
downhill bike and stay comfy on it.
But I think the biggest thing that I always tell the kids is like, you got to be able to know for yourself what you're lacking. You got to be able to look at your race and look at who won the race, their fastest time, and what was the difference. What did they do differently than I did? How can I, like, what could I do to gain the most of that gap? Like, obviously, there's 10 things you can do differently. Which one of those things is the lowest hanging fruit?
Yeah.
And that's going to give you the most of that time.
Yeah, your ROI on that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to analyze that. Nobody can really tell you better than yourself.
Yeah.
And take responsibility for it and make a plan to implement it. So if you can figure that out, there's so much access to video now. You can watch Lucas' full run thanks to you, Mangler,
Yeah.
and see what he did differently.
Yeah.
GoPros, everything. Like, you can break it down, and like sometimes it's stuff that's not even hard to do. It's like, oh, I missed this line. I was braking too much here. These guys were just carrying more speed there. Little stuff. If you pay attention, you can find time.
Yeah. Let's say you're going to a new venue and you have a track walk day, practice number 1 day, practice number 2 day with seating, and then practice and race on the following day. How do you approach those days?
So if you're going to a new track, I would spend enough time on that track walk to really memorize the whole thing. Probably be good to watch a GoPro or something, that if there's prior info on that track from another race, try to watch what you can, become familiar with it, so when you track walk it, you kind of remember where you're at. You should be able to like close your eyes and run through the whole trail before you even ride it by paying attention on that track walk. So if you're taking it seriously, you want to know where every turn is, where your braking points are, where you can let off the brakes. Then on the practice day, you don't want to start too fast. You want to feel the rhythm before you build the speed. Otherwise, you'll plateau. And each run you do, you should be thinking about what you can do to improve. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like I was just saying, go as fast as you can. I see a lot of kids like just GoProing their runs and trying to beat their time. And sometimes you take 2 steps back to go 5 steps forwards, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like looking at the track and actually figuring out what the fastest line is. If there's a place where you're not sure, most of the time if you're not sure, if it actually is a question, it's not that much in it.
Okay.
And it's more how you ride it than which line you take. But if there is a place you're not sure, stop and look. Watch other riders. Follow a friend and see which line's faster. Don't just keep riding down the track aimlessly. Try to be purposeful with each one of your practice runs. And then once you get into the qualifying day, something that works pretty well for me is like, if you're going to make a plan to do 2 or 3 practice runs. Say the first run is a warm-up. The second run you do 2 stops. So pick 2 places, like split it into thirds, and ride each third as fast as you can. Then your next run, go up and do 1 stop. So split the track in half and do each half as fast as you can. Then in your seating run, do the whole track with all your best sections added together. So your theoretical best run should be as good as your seating run is. And when you split it down like that, you can easily like do each minute really fast and then add all the pieces together.
Okay.
So if you're intentional with your practice, I think you can build up to doing your fastest run in your race run.
That's some good info right there.
That's what I try to do.
Yeah. I think that could be really beneficial to a lot of the kids. Yeah. And also hearing that from you allows me to look at how we approach filming each day a little differently. Because usually what we do is, if we're filming like all the times pros are on course, we're going to see Friday as kind of like the day where people are like maybe being a little steezy, like having more fun on the course. And then like this Saturday course is like when you're finding speed.
Yeah. And you definitely, you want to have fun too. Like you can have fun on the bike. Like I would say, I don't take the downhill southeast races super seriously, but if you are, like what I just said may help you, and balance that with, not being too, like I was saying in the beginning, putting too much pressure on yourself and riding stiffer because of it. Like have fun, but also have a purpose.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you're there for the fastest time you can do, if that's your goal.
Yeah.
If you're there to have fun, have fun.
Yeah. So we're headed to Trials Training Center for our next race. It is a completely different location than most of our other ones. And I would say in some of the best ways, but also provides some of the most logistical challenges. But we know that. The course had some fresh updates in the off season. How do you think that is going to benefit our Cat 2-3 riders?
Yeah, so TTC, I would say, is a rider favorite.
Yeah.
I think the track is pretty unique. It's a fun track, and probably just because it's a novelty. Like, it's not a place that people really go ride. I wish they would. The track's open all year. If you go there, it's not always maintained, so I can understand why, but at least around the race, it'd be cool if people went and tried it. But because most people only go there for the race, it's always like a highlight. Whereas like you go to Windrock, you go to Rock Creek, you go to Snowshoe, several times a year, it's like a popular place people go to ride.
Totally.
So you're back at the same spot. New changes to the track are mainly on the bottom section. We did like go through, we had a weekend where we did a dig day and went through with hand tools and kind of just widened up some of the, every year we try to do this at the top, just widen it up, make it easier for the bottom end of things. The fast guys are going to be pushing the pace no matter what. And if the track's a little wider, it might be easier for them, but doesn't make so much of a difference. But for the guys that are having trouble with that track, it is kind of technical. It does make it easier for them to get through. So I think that'll help the Cat 2-3 guys. And then the new section I mentioned at the bottom is really just the last like 20, 30 seconds of the track. Sean built a new rhythm section that was used in one of the motorcycle videos. It was with Manny Littenbichler and Carson Brown. They did like a little edit out at the TKO Enduro at the TTC.
Yeah.
And he kind of intentionally built it so he could use it for the bike race too, which was super cool.
Good move.
Red Bull paid him to build that, and he put it in the downhill track. So that'll be the new finish, which is cool. It's like totally opposite from everything at TTC. It's like a groomed jump line at the end. And yeah, it looks like it was running well. It's kind of flat. You carry good speed into it. Hoping it's not too wet for the race so it gets packed in. But the GoPro I saw, like everybody was ripping right through it, jumping all the jumps. So looks like a fun new finish. But yeah, generally the whole track has just kind of been widened up, groomed. The S-turn section in the middle we rerouted. So that was one of the gnarliest spots. Like we always groomed it for the race, and then it would be muddy and get like axle deep ruts, which was really tough for the Cat 2-3s. So to speak to them, like the new route around it's fun for everyone. It's loamy. It's just like kind of a rake and ride, but it'll be easier on the bottom end too. It does put you into the road gap super fast, so it's like way easier to jump the road gap. We might have to I was considering like taking the wood off of it. The first year was just the rock.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was a lot slower that first year. But now with the new entrance, it's like even faster. So it's hard to like scrub down enough like to not completely miss the landing.
Even last year, people were still like going past the landing pretty good on at race pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it'll be good. Like the track's bedded in now. If it does rain, like the whole thing's way more hard packed, so it won't get as torn up and deep. And if not, I think it'll be running really good. And like looks like it's groomed well.
Yeah. Took a peek at the registration list earlier. We got some good names thrown in the hat for this one. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. I think we still have a bunch to come. Like the last week, normally everybody signs up.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucas said he was coming out to do it. I know Dooley, I saw he was signed up.
Yep.
So it should be, pretty stacked race between them. Crispy's going to be there. Metcalf and Tyler Irvin.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be a really good race.
Are we going to see a Crispy Rick showdown again?
I hope so, dude. Crispy and I, we were saying we wanted to do, I don't know if anybody watching this have seen the Redneck Brawl, but they do all these promotional videos, like an amateur boxing thing, where they like call each other out on Instagram. And me and Crispy were going to like call each other out, like say, I'm going to beat you. And Chris usually called me old and washed up, and I was going to call him some names and make a little mashup, but he thought he might be fired from Specialized if he does it. I can't get fired. Logan can't fire me.
Yeah. Man, that'd really spice things up a bit. Well, run us through the weekend for TTC. I mean, obviously we're somewhat sticking to the same schedule, but how does things shift around maybe differently at TTC?
Yeah. So Thursday, there's no like official track walk. You can walk up and down the trail if you want. You can shuttle yourself. If you're shuttling yourself, just drive slow on that road. I tell everybody like it's a neighborhood, and they don't like that we have the race there. It's once a year. So please don't be speeding on the road. But yeah, if you want to shuttle yourself up, you can do it for track walk. There's no other riding on Thursday. Friday, normal schedule. We're splitting with 2 groups. We're going to try to stick with 2 groups all year. TTC was the one that I considered doing 3, but really the 2 groups is to split the Cat 2s and 3s. At a lot of the races, we see a larger number of the beginner riders than we do the expert riders. So we split the beginners into 2 groups. But TTC being like historically a harder track, we don't see that. It's more even between the experts and the beginners.
Okay.
So 2 groups will be a balanced number of riders in each group. We got 5 shuttles. I don't think we could do much more on that road. So admittedly, it's not the quickest.
But it's literally the only way to get up to the top of that cliff band.
It's the only way to do it. You might not get as many runs as you'd like to. You might wait in line for 30 minutes once in a while for your shuttle at peak times. But, I mean, I went there last year, and in I think it was a 3.5 hour practice, I got 6 runs. So, I mean, go to a British downhill series and see how bad it is.
Touche. Okay. Time-wise, we need to make people, if it's their first time there, that Chattanooga and Sequatchie zone are in 2 different time zones.
Yeah, so we're going to run the race on Central Time just to keep things like from being confusing. It is in Central Time, and your phone should change. There's not great service there, so sometimes it doesn't, which makes it even more confusing. You
get okay service at the top, and then about halfway down, you kind of...
But most people's phones should say Central. So we'll run it on Central. It's also slow time, so it's better to be an hour early than an hour late.
True.
And yeah, I think we'll make do with that.
Nice. TTC is an interesting spot because it's just like an open venue. So talk to us about like the camping scenario and that stuff.
Yeah. So if you want to camp, you just have to call and register a place.
Yep. Give Larry a call.
Yeah. Larry's great, dude. He's running he's the manager of the TTC. He's a trials motorcycle rider himself. He appreciates the mountain bikers coming. He loves it that we come there for the race. I know all the RV spots are sold. He told me the cabins are all rented that they have. So they may be full. But if you want to just do primitive camping, I don't know their availability still this late, but if you call them, they'll let you know what you can do. We did rent the gravel lot, and we're going to do pits there. So we're going to break that up. I have to see if I can measure it off of Google Earth or a drone shot to know exactly how many spots we can sell so we don't oversell it. But we're going to try to sell that whole gravel lot as pits. That'll be up on... I think Bike Reg Logan puts the pits. So we'll make an announcement though where you can book your pit space and move the registration trailer accordingly to give people the maximum number of pit spots and put the registration trailer conveniently.
Nice. With our new finish spot, you still access it the same way as you would the old one, correct?
Yep. So like you go to the old finish and about 500 feet upstream is where the new finish is. It's way more cleared out. They use it as a viewing area for the TKO Enduro, the big motorcycle race they have there. So it's a nicer finish area. But yeah, if you just head the same way, you'll hear or see it. It's just out of eyesight away from the old one.
Okay, cool. And last year we were fortunate to have Rotten Oaks giving us some breakfast burritos and stuff on site. Do we know if there's going to be any food trucks or anything there?
I don't have confirmation now, but I'll work on it.
Okay.
I'll ask Emily if she can come chef up for us.
Yeah. People were stoked on that.
It was really good. Yeah, it was amazing. She's great at that.
What else?
Bring your licenses. My mom always tells me we got to remind people to bring their licenses.
Okay.
She's always the bad guy checking licenses when you get the number. But now USA Cycling licenses are year to date when you buy it. So before she used to know if you had a 2025 license at the first race, you're good.
Looking at it, yeah.
But it could expire. Like you could have bought it at TTC last year, which was, I think, this weekend that we're talking right now, and then it'll be good for Rock Creek, but not for TTC. So we got to check everybody's license. It is our insurance. It's the insurance that we run our series on. So if you are riding and we didn't check your license and for some reason it's expired, that could be a big liability for us. So rules are rules. We have to check the license. Bring your license. Don't be mad if somebody asks you to see your license, because they will. And there's not great service there. So pretty much USA Cycling only has digital licenses now. So make sure you have it, screenshot of that license, and just be prepared to show it at registration.
Bonus points if you bring Mama Malali like a printed copy of it. Here you go, Carolyn.
If you actually have the physical license, then it's super easy. Yeah. But you have to ask for it special from USA Cycling now. They don't just send them.
Cool. One thing, I had a couple people hit me up asking me, like, hey, what are you guys going to be riding that's not is there any free riding options and stuff at TTC?
There's not at TTC. And anybody who is riding anything with two wheels at TTC needs to sign a waiver. So I don't think you have to pay, but you can sign a spectator waiver. So make sure you're doing that. With the shuttle situation, there's just no room for people who aren't racing.
Totally.
There are some motorcycle trails there. If you want to ride those, you want to bring a motorcycle, you can go check that out. Chattanooga has some awesome riding. Last year we went to...
you guys went and hit up Walden's Ridge.
Walden's Ridge. That's I told everybody here it's like a better version of Canoga. I was just giving them some grief. But
I mean, it's like 700 feet of vert or something.
Some of the jump lines were so cool. Yeah. And it was like 45 minutes from TTC. Yeah. It's pretty close. So there are places nearby to ride.
Yeah. Raccoon Mountain is a little closer. Raccoon, you can kind of do like a self shuttle on a couple of the trail options there. So if you're looking to try to rally a crew and do some party laps, I think you can also do self shuttle at Walden's, but that's also a great e-bike spot.
Yeah, for sure. We rode it on e-bikes and it was super fun.
What else do we need to touch on?
Registration closes on Tuesday at midnight. Okay. There's no on-site registration. It's been that way since COVID, really. Yeah. Helps us prepare for the race, where we got to get the timing chips. We got everybody in the registration system.
You got to know how many people are coming to the birthday party.
Exactly. Yeah. We're a small yet efficient crew that runs the race. It's pretty much just 5 of us, and really all I do is ride my bike during the race. So 4. Yep. Yeah, really my mom, Logan, Alvaro, and Andrew. And then Logan's wife, Amber, helps out a lot too. So small crew, but please sign up early because it makes it easier on everybody.
Yeah, totally. Before I let you go, this is our last downhill southeast before we have the 2 national rounds, the second of which will be back at Rock Creek. Do you have any teases for us on what that track's going to be like?
Yep. So just got a huge excavator delivered today. Hayden's up there working on the trail. Got to run the classic Stampede route with changing up a couple sections. So 2 main areas that he's going to be working on are GoPro Bridge to Red Net. The original GoPro Bridge, the steeper one, is what we're going to run for pros. I believe Clay said he wants Cat 2.3s on the other GoPro Bridge, so a split line there. Okay. It is kind of hard to run the steeper one for Cat 2.3s, so I get that. But we're going to redo that whole section, make the transition in the left berm at the bottom a little smoother, make a jump on the old road bed, just kind of make it flow a little better with some harder braking points too. Without before it was a hard braking point to a flat section. Now I'm going to try to make it flow and also still have some braking sections, kind of one of our steeper parts of the track. And then the diving board right turn 4 rollers. We're going to redo the landing of the diving board, the right turn, make it a little bit bigger and steeper and smoother, so you can carry more speed. And we're going to run the 4 rollers like more uphill, like closer to the road. So kind of like opening up that section and do some different rhythm, whether it's like 4 rollers, 6 rollers, dragging back and on-offs, just something that has multiple options.
But not whoops?
Not whoops, dude. Whoops, but mountain bikes are not made to ride in whoops. And then it'll turn left and hit that same kind of rock section after that, but at a better angle because you'll be coming from higher up, closer to the road, so carrying more speed into it.
Okay, cool.
So those are Hayden's big work areas. And then I'm going to go through and just touch up the rest of the track. We ordered a ton of mulch. We're going to put a bunch of mulch in the track. The one section we did last year for Nationals I thought worked really well. Mm-hmm. And we're going to try to mix in, like flip the dirt, mix mulch into it, and just make it soft. So when you get a ton of bikes on it, it gets rough and gets different lines cut in.
That'll be interesting.
So I thought, I call it the mail order loamer. I thought it worked pretty well last year at Nationals. That was like one of the more fun sections.
It would create some additional workload for some crew, but if you re-raked it every day, like after the track closed, just so like...
We'll leave a rake there next to the sand trap.
Okay.
You can clean your marks.
Yeah, right on. Well, Neko, thanks for stopping by after it looks like you had a great ride. Appreciate the time and look forward to seeing you out in that holler in Sequatchie.
Right on. We'll see you guys at TTC.